We are anonymous, those who see in the shadows. Welcome. Hello, my friends, and brace yourselves. What I am about to tell you now is no fairy tale. It is what we have verified, what our networks have traced, what the occupiers hope you never hear. You think you know Donetsk. You think the Russians are just holding territory. No. Listen, we have evidence that what appears to be a civilian supermarket, once labeled Sigma Hypermarket, is in fact a hidden node in their logistics and weapons network in occupied Donetsk. Before 2014, it was a normal commercial facility known under the name Ocean. But since being seized, it has become a hub for storing weapons, electronics, perhaps even drone parts. Locals say it was civilian. Russians claimed it was civilian, but our intelligence shows otherwise. On a recent night, Ukrainian FP-1 drones from Firepoint struck that very facility. Whatever was inside is now gone. Let me walk you through what led up to that strike and what it reveals about the larger war. The FP-1 drone from Firepoint is light, almost silent. There is also an FP-2 variant that can carry up to 100 kilograms of payload. But for a place like that, old supermarket turned warehouse, FP-1 was sufficient. The Russians tried to defend it. They deployed the new electronic warfare systems devices intended to jam or intercept the radio signals that control drones. They believed they could neutralize Ukrainian drones, but they miscalculated. The drone that struck was not fiber optically tethered. It used radio waves and the jammers failed. The system itself was eventually captured twice, on footage showing it looked brand new. The Russians claimed it would disable all Ukrainian drones. Instead, it failed miserably in this case. As dawn broke, the next morning reports came in of yet another strike, this time on a Russian refinery, deep in their own territory, bashneft, in Ufa, Bashkortostan, 1,400 kilometers from the front. This was not the first such attack. In recent weeks, Ukrainian drones have targeted petrochemical and oil refining complexes deep inside Russia. The Russians claimed no fatalities and that the damage was contained. But the fact remains, Ukraine managed to hit deep into Russia, sea rear. The strategic message could not be clearer. Where does that leave Russia? Exposed, vulnerable. The war is no longer just at the border. It is now on their doorstep. Meanwhile, on the front lines, both sides are locked in brutal exchanges. In the area around Nikonorvka village, once liberated by Ukraine, Russian forces launched a counteroffensive, trying to push back into territory they lost during Ukraine's recent counterattacks. Over the past 3 days, Russians have stepped up their efforts there. They managed to push forward under cover, sending reinforcements, but they lost all vehicles sent in the path of Ukrainian drone and artillery strikes. Infantry may be hiding underground or in basements, waiting for the right moment. In the direction of Dralia and the surrounding villages, Ukraine tried to bring in heavy tanks and infantry, but Russian defenders struck back. 3 Ukrainian tanks were knocked out in one assault about a week ago. In parallel, Russians counterattacked toward Volodymyrovka and Konstantinivka. Over those operations, Russia lost more than 30 vehicles in just those 2 costly attacks. Ukraine now relies on FPV drones, kamikaze drones, and other unmanned systems deployed en masse. Drone warfare is now a key element of every battlefield. On one sector near Sivir, the Russians tried to press forward, but met resistance. Their lines hit bottlenecks in 3 positions, Dnepropetrovsk and Zaporizhia. They made only minimal advances near Pavka, a small movement compared to previous days. The front line barely shifted. On many sectors, over 24 hours, nothing changed significantly. In war, that is sometimes the best you can hope for. Now here is the chilling piece. Russian green men without insignia were spotted along the Russian-Estonian border. An Estonian general confirmed it. 7 armed men masked with no patches crossing checkpoints. Estonia immediately closed that border sector. These are likely Russian special forces or clandestine units, testing NATO's reaction. They may claim to be local militants or ethnic Russians, asserting rights, but in reality, They could be the spearhead of a deeper incursion. One possible scenario is Russia attempting to open the Suwalkicorridor, the land bridge between Belarus and Kaliningrad through Lithuania. If they can infiltrate small units without insignia claim, they are locals, occupy that corridor, and provoke NATO to react, they gain plausible deniability. They may avoid directly confronting Poland and strike from Lithuania or Belarus, trying not to trigger a full Article 5 response. Meanwhile, Russia's naval power could tighten the chokehold on the Baltic Sea. They could also strike military bases in the Baltics. NATO is underprepared. Existing armies are not fully modernized for this type of war, and many Baltic states are only now ramping up drone production and air defenses. Putin's window may be short, especially if leadership in the United States shifts. This is not paranoia. This is strategy. The Russians are probing, testing, and pushing weak points. Europe may be headed toward full-scale conflict with Russia. Many analysts now say it is not a question of if, but when. Back to the skies. Just yesterday, a K-52 attack helicopter was lost by Russia along with 2 pilots. Telegram channels affiliated with the Russian Air Forces confirmed the loss. Losses of helicopters and aircraft have been mounting for months. In one dramatic case, a Russian Mi-8 helicopter, fully loaded with infantry, was shot down by an FPV drone. Only a handful on board survived. These inexpensive, expendable systems are wreaking havoc on expensive modern platforms. Russia, sensing the threat, tried to roll out high-tech electronic warfare gear. They claimed all Ukrainian drones would be intercepted. Yet time and again that gear has failed. Either it is untested, or Ukraine's drone tech is simply one step ahead. Drone footage itself has captured the Russian countermeasures in the act twice. The jammers looked fresh, but were ineffective. The Russians tried to jam radio-controlled drones, but those drones adapted and evaded suppression. Beyond drones, there are partisan sabotage operations striking rail lines and logistics hubs deep inside Russia. Pro-Ukrainian partisan groups have claimed responsibility for attacks that sever supply lines in Rostov Oblast and elsewhere. In occupied Volnovakha, partisans have disrupted Russian logistics routes. These attacks undercut Russian supply chains far beyond the Ukrainian front line and force Moscow to divert troops and resources to rear area security. We are no longer talking about static front lines. We are talking about a multi-dimensional battlefield: air, underground logistics, cyberspace, sabotage, clandestine forces, and political warfare. Russian forces who believed occupying territory meant control are discovering otherwise. Their warehouses, refineries, and supply hubs are now targets. Their electronic shields are not impenetrable. Their special units, testing frontiers, risk escalation beyond what their commanders expect. There are political elements to consider as well. Phone talks took place between Zelensky and authorities in the United States about reinforcement of Ukrainian air defense. There is online chatter about shipments of Tomahawk missiles and Patriot batteries. Whether or not Tomahawk supply is real remains uncertain, but the discussion itself affects decision-making in Moscow and in European capitals. Meanwhile, global tensions flare in other theaters. Recent clashes between Taliban elements and Pakistani forces over equipment left behind years ago have added another layer of instability. These separate but connected crises shape the calculations of states and non-state actors across regions. What does all of this mean for you and for the world? It means vigilance. It means spreading truth. It means supporting institutions and systems that can resist secret warfare and disinformation. And it means understanding that wars today are fought on many levels, not just with tanks and jets, but with drones, propaganda, cyber attacks, and targeted sabotage. The advantage often goes to the actor that adapts fastest. We are anonymous. We expose what the powerful hide. We have no allegiance to any government or to any billionaire. Our mission is to reveal the truth and to make it harder for oppression to hide behind smoke and noise. Take this information, share it, analyze it, and use it to hold those responsible to account. Record this report, distribute it widely, and open your eyes to the shape of the conflict unfolding around us. Spread this message, support independent reporting, verify your sources, and do not let the machinery of war operate in darkness. Act, speak, and do not be silent. In the name of truth, we are anonymous.